Who doesn't like a good comeback story? At one point, American Tower had lost almost 99% of their stock value, but here we are today with them outperforming the market the last 2 decades. The question remains, are they still a good buy today? Stick around to find out. Hey everyone, Stock Ninja here, bringing you episode 19 of Who Beat the S&P 500. Today we'll be looking into American Tower Corporation, a company that has been on my radar for quite some time now. I've heard a lot of good things about them and thought it was high time to check them out. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Founded in 1995, American Tower Corporation is one of the largest global REITs. The company independently owns, operates, and develops wireless and broadcast communications real estate. Their portfolio includes approximately 181,000 communication sites, including more than 41,000 properties in the United States and 140,000 properties internationally. Let's see what kind of returns you would have gotten from American Tower had you been invested with them over the last 2 decades. Had you invested $10,000 into American Tower exactly 20 years ago, with dividends reinvested, you would have a very nice sum worth $78,211.21 versus the $32,748.91 of the S&P. That's a 681.51% total return, beating the returns of the S&P's 227.72% by about 3 times, which comes out to an average annual return of 10.83% versus a 6.11% of the S&P in the same time frame. American Tower beating the market comfortably over the last 2 decades. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to destroy that like button and subscribe to the channel. American Tower Corporation currently has a market cap of around $112.5 billion, making it a large cap company. American Tower is listed within the real estate sector with an industry focus in specialty REITs. On top of that, they are the largest company by market cap in this sector among publicly traded companies within the New York Stock Exchange. American Tower trades with the ticker symbol AMT and is currently a member of the S&P 100 and S&P 500 indexes. With the quarterly dividend distribution, American Tower typically pays their dividend during the months of January, April, July, and October. American Tower currently has a dividend yield of 1.76%, which is decent, but on the lower end of the spectrum, especially when looking at REITs. The annual payout comes out to $4.40 per year at a payout ratio of 56.44%. Just a reminder that the payout ratio for REITs are calculated differently, using funds from operation or FFO as opposed to traditional EPS or earnings per share. The company is relatively new to the dividend game. They started paying a dividend just 7 years ago, but they also raised their dividend the last 7 years as well. The growth though has been excellent, with a 5-year CAGR or compound annual growth rate at a fantastic 21.98%, the 3-year at 20.32%, and the 1-year also at 20%. Overall, this brings a dividend safety score from SimpliSafe Dividend to a 78 out of 99, which is considered to be safe. I suspect this number to grow considerably as the years of dividend increase continue. American Tower will be a great fit for a dividend portfolio. Though they currently have a low yield, their dividend growth more than makes up for that in my eyes. American Tower's fiscal year runs from January through December each year. As fiscal year 2020 is not yet complete, we will look at their 2019 annual report. In fiscal year 2019, they generated approximately $7.58 billion in revenue, which has been on a tear the last few years, seeing double-digit growth from 2015 to 2018, but only a 1.88% increase from 2018 to 2019. Revenue is going up, but also seems to be slowing down. When looking at the PE ratio for a REIT, we will see that typically it's quite high, but it's better to look at their price to funds from operation ratio instead. When looking at the price to FFO ratio for American Tower, we can see it currently sits at 32.04 with an FFO of $7.80 in 2020, but analyst estimates for 2021 is $8.65, which is a 10.93% expected increase. That is good to see as American Tower is looking poised to keep growing. When looking at American Tower's balance sheet, we can see that the total assets have grown quite a bit from 2018 to 2019, with nearly $10 billion in value added. What is concerning is the gap between current assets and current liabilities has also grown. Where it was about a 1-to-1 ratio in 2016 and 2017, it is now roughly a 1-to-2 assets to liabilities ratio. The current debt has also increased by roughly $10 billion on the balance sheet in 2019. Remember that all REITs need access to cheap debt to grow. That's because generally the cost of equity is higher than the cost of debt. which means that debt is a cheaper way to leverage equity capital and lower the overall cost of capital. So in this case, as they are aggressively taking on debt, it's important to look at their credit rating for American Tower, where we can see that Moody's gives them a Baa3 rating and S&P gives them a BBB- rating, which is on the precipice of being junk grade. Definitely concerning to me personally, but a lot of that has to do with how they are managing the business and generating income. That being said, let's hear how American Tower brings in money and how they split up their operating segments. American Tower's primary business is the leasing of space on communication sites to wireless service providers, radio and television broadcast companies, wireless data providers, government agencies, and municipalities and tenants in a number of other industries. They refer to this business as their property operations, which accounted for 98% of total revenues for the year ended December 31st, 2019. As of Q4 2019, American Tower changed their reporting structure to 6 operating segments: US property, Asia property, Africa property, Europe property, Latin America property, and services. The US property segment accounted for 55% of overall revenue in fiscal year 2019. This segment's major customers are the likes of AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, and Sprint, which have merged this year, and altogether accounted for approximately 89% of revenue for this segment. The Asia segment accounted for 16% of overall revenue in fiscal year 2019. This segment's major customers, Vodafone, Idea Limited, Airtel, and Reliance, combined to make up approximately 83% of overall revenue of this segment. Next, we have the Africa segment, which accounted for 8% of overall revenue in fiscal year 2019. This segment's major customers include the likes of MTN Group Limited and Airtel, which combined to make up 74% of overall revenue for this segment. One of the smallest segments, the Europe segment, accounted for just 2% of overall revenue in fiscal year 2019. This segment's major customers include Telefonica, Hughes, and Free, which combined accounted for 70% of overall revenue in this segment. The Latin America segment accounted for 17% of overall revenue in fiscal year 2019. This segment's major customers include the likes of Telefonica, AT&T, and America Movie, which combined accounted for approximately 58% of overall revenue in this segment. Lastly, the services segment accounted for the last 2% of overall revenue. Overall, they have been expanding rapidly across the globe and really acquiring as many assets as they can get their hands on, which explains a huge expansion of debt on the balance sheet as well as the assets. Now, let's see how the company fared in the dot-com bubble crash, the Great Financial Recession, and how it's currently trading during the downturn in 2020. During the dot-com bubble crash, American Tower fell 98.93%. falling way more than the S&P's 50.41% decline. Definitely the largest drawdown we have seen in our 19 episodes of this series. Honestly, I can't believe we are talking about the same company right now. But remember, the strong companies find ways to survive, and American Tower did just that, but barely by the looks of it. During the Great Financial Crisis, American Tower fell 58.40%, dropping about the same as a 57.61% decline by the S&P. Much more reasonable of a drawdown than the previous market crash, but still dropping quite a bit. During the downturn in 2020, American Tower fell 32.61% compared to the S&P's 35.59% decline. American Tower once again fell about as much as the overall stock market. That being said, it came back quite strong and went on to make all-time highs, but has been relatively flat since early June of 2020. Apart from the insane drop during the dot-com bubble crash, American Tower seems to have calmed down since then during recessions, staying about in line with the overall market. So obviously the company rebounds quickly. Headquartered in Boston, Massachusetts with around 5,454 full-time employees worldwide, American Tower is currently led by Chairman, President, and CEO Tom Bartlett. Bartlett has been CEO since just March of 2020 when the former longtime CEO Jim Taisel stepped down in mid-March, right around the time the market was taking a beating. Taisel took up the CEO position at Lockheed Martin shortly thereafter. If you are interested in Lockheed stock, I did a video on them. I'll link it in the card above and in the description below. Bartlett has been with American Tower since 2009, serving as the Executive Vice President and CFO for over 10 years before assuming his new role. Prior to American Tower, he was with Verizon for more than 25 years. Bartlett currently leads a senior leadership team of just 6 members, most of which have been with American Tower since around 2007 or later. As Bartlett has just taken over the role, let's take a look at how the previous CEO Taisel did during his tenure, as Bartlett will no doubt be compared to his predecessor in the future. Taisel led American Tower from October of 2003 till March of 2020. and the stock appreciated a phenomenal 17,000% in that time frame. Bartlett has some pretty big shoes to fill for sure, but he's off to a fast start himself. Since he took over the head position on March 16, 2020, American Tower shares have rallied about 23% and at one point hit fresh all-time highs in late July. Looking at which institutions currently hold American Tower stock, we have FMR in 5th place with a 3.37% stake in the company. In 4th is Wellington Management with a slightly higher 3.87% stake, and in 3rd is State Street with a 4.36% stake. Like clockwork, we have BlackRock in 2nd with a 7.41% stake, and in 1st, with almost double the size of BlackRock's stake, Vanguard has a 12.94% stake in American Tower, which equals nearly $15 billion in value. Let's consider some of the risks of investing in American Tower. The company has been expanding drastically on the international level, which has provided to be fruitful, but that being said, any missteps into certain markets or untimely demise of major customers could result in a lot of setbacks for overall outlook. On top of that, given that American Tower operates in many different countries, regulatory matters become more and more prominent as the years go by. They will have to keep up with these matters and notify shareholders if any adverse situations arise. This too could potentially lower growth estimates. In my opinion, American Tower Corporation is a solid company overall. I like their business model of slow but consistent growth while expanding their real estate footprint across the globe. Revenue has been growing like clockwork over the years, as well as a rapid increase of their dividend, which has started just 7 years ago. Though their longtime CEO Taisel stepped down this year, it seems that their new CEO Bartlett is capable of filling the large void left behind. But it's something that shareholders will likely keep a close eye on. So what is my plan for American Tower? Currently, Realty Income is my largest holding with a few smaller holdings as well, and from a quick glance you can see that I'm lacking international exposure in terms of real estate. American Tower could be a very good complement to fill that purpose. But that being said, I would like to look more into their plans for 5G, which I didn't find too much information on. I also plan to look into their competitor Crown Castle and see if it makes sense to buy one, the other, or both going into the future. What do you all think about American Tower? That concludes our analysis of American Tower Corporation. If you made it thus far, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It really helps out a small channel like mine. Thanks for watching, everyone. Till next time, Stock Ninja out. I am not a financial advisor, and this video is for educational purposes only. Please do your own research before buying or selling any stock seen in this video.